Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Hannibal Season 2, Episode 2, Sakazuke. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happens within this episode. So the episode starts with Bedelia arriving at Hannibal's office in order to end their relationship as psychiatrist and patient, basically saying that it has become clear to her that he is dangerous based on what she has glimpsed through the stitching of his person suit. We then move on to where we have the lab, Beverly, Jimmy, and Brian, along with Jack and Hannibal, looking at the new body that they have found, which is the man who had managed to wake up at the end of the previous episode. He unfortunately did not make it to any safety and ended up being found in a river as well. And Beverly, while they are looking at the body, presents Will's color palette insight that she had gotten when she visited them, and then is taken to Jack's office afterwards and is scolded for going to see Will, but she points out that she only went to see him because Jack wouldn't, but that she knew that Jack wanted to. And Jack, of course, basically says that, you know what, their conversation didn't happen. She should do whatever she feels she needs to do, essentially indicating that he does want her to go back, but he can't say that he wants her to go back. We then see Hannibal alone in the lab with the body, and he smells it. And as he smells it, corn grows all around him. And we've then cut to Hannibal visiting Will. He discusses their relationship, talking about how Will had mentioned that they were so far from friendship that the light of it wouldn't hit them for a million years. And Hannibal says how he hopes that their friendship is closer today than it was yesterday. And Will points out that now they are psychologist or psychiatrist and patient, and that's an imbalanced relationship, so of course they couldn't be friends. But then points out that they were just having conversations. And then he asks for Will's insight into the killer's motive, which Will then provides, while then Beverly returns to Will, once again on her own, and he offers to help her and the team to find the killer, but he asks that in exchange, she forgets all of the evidence they had found against him so far and keeps looking for new evidence, saying that if he is truly guilty, he would she would find additional evidence to support that, but if he's innocent, then she may find that too, and she agrees to keep looking, saying that that is something that she can do. And he then gives his perspective on the fact that the man who managed to break free did so because he had a high tolerance of opiates, because he was a substance abuser, and therefore the overdose level of heroin that he was given that had killed all of the others in the mural, he managed to survive it. He would have ripped himself out of the mural, but most likely as he was running away, he managed to fall into the river, and that is how he passed on, saying that if the killer had managed to catch him, he would have been put back into the mural. Therefore, his death ultimately was accidental. And then, of course, Will asks about Hannibal and what Hannibal had said, which Beverly advises him. Then we get Hannibal arriving at a farm in his plastic murder suit, and he then sees that there is a brand new lock on one of the silos, so he climbs it, looks down, sees an eye made out of human bodies, and as he happens to be looking down, in walks the killer, and he basically draws attention to himself saying, "Hello, I love your work." And then we cut to the FBI arriving at the scene, and Beverly, of course, while they're processing and while she's walking Hannibal over to where Jack is with the mural, is talking about how he and Will make such a good team, talking about how they managed to find the location based on a combination of what Hannibal said and what Will's advice was when he looked at everything. We then kind of have Hannibal and Jack talking about what the eye could mean, and Jack kind of continues the conversation into his psych evaluation, which he has with a psychologist or psychiatrist that the FBI set him up with. We then return to the lab, which has one identified body amidst the others that doesn't really match kind of the color palette or anything else, and they also notice that he is missing a leg. We then see Hannibal butchering a leg and cooking himself dinner. And then Bedelia visits Jack, basically telling him what she told Hannibal, that she is no longer going to be his psychiatrist. She won't be able to offer any further insight, and has recused herself from the situation, asking him not to contact her again, though of course she does point out that she can't control what the FBI does, but she does not want to be a part of it any further. Beverly and Hannibal then visit Will together, where Will reveals that the killer is inside of the mural, and and then we see a flashback to Hannibal killing the killer, basically mimicking what he has done to kill the others, giving him an overdose of the heroin, stitching him in, preserving him like he did the others, while talking about how there were other artists in history that included themselves or bits of themselves into their artwork, and how he's so privileged that he was born to make art but also to be a part of his art. And we then move on again to Will being visited, this time by Cade, who is doing the internal investigation, who basically tells him that in court the prosecution is going to basically throw him under the bus, say he knew what he was doing, get him guilty, and get him a death sentence. And if he wants to avoid the death sentence, then he needs to plead guilty, and if he does that, she will make sure that he has the most comfortable time in the psychiatric facility that he can possibly have. He, of course, tells her that he is going to be pleading innocent, and then he kind of retreats back into his own mind. Then we have Bedelia visiting Will, and despite the guards telling her to stay back, she walks right up to the bars. He walks up to meet her, and she whispers that she believes him about Hannibal. And she also, before she goes up to the bars and whispers that, mentions how she feels almost like she already knows Will because of how much Hannibal has spoken about him. We then have Hannibal arriving at Bedelia's house in his murder suit, ready to kill her for getting too close and realizing he's dangerous. However, the house, all the furniture has been covered in sheets, and it is dark, and Bedelia is clearly gone, and we get her voice over, basically reiterating that she has come to the conclusion, or that the conclusion that she has drawn is that he is dangerous. And that is where we end our episode. Now that we remember what happened within the episode, it's time to rank the episode. We rank on two lists, a mostly objective ranking list and then a personal ranking list. So we'll start with our mostly objective rank values. And the first value is that there was some multi-season supporting character development. Now, there were multiple characters that I felt got a little bit of development. However, each of the developments I felt were fairly small, and so they're all counting together towards 3 points. And the first one, of course, is Jack needing a psychological evaluation and having one. That's a bit of a development, but again, nothing major. Beverly agrees to keep looking for Will, doing so as a deal, sort of, to get his help, which again is a minor development, but it does become significant later, which is why I'm counting it, but again, it's very minor. And then we, of course, have Bedelia trying to withdraw from the entire situation and from Hannibal and Will and Jack and the FBI and everybody else, closing her house, running away, which again is just a minor development. And so those three things together I felt were worth the 3 points. Once again, and then The second 3 points was for the impactful slash memorable moment slash line slash etc., which of course is the fact that the imagery of the eye within the silo is one that does stick in your mind pretty well. Um, some of the murders have really good imagery, others aren't quite as on point there, but this is one that I felt was very on point for the show, for the aesthetic of the show, which is of course one of the main things that I like about the show, is all of the imagery that it creates very successfully, and I felt like the image of the eye at the bottom of the silo made up of human bodies was very memorable as a crime, as it is one that you would think of if you look back on all of the crimes that happen. It would be one that stands out and that you probably would remember, or at least that I personally tend to remember. And so with those two together, that is a total of 6 points. I didn't really feel that any of the negative values applied in this particular episode, and so for that reason, the objective score of this episode is going to be a 6 out of 10. So as it is only the second episode of the second season, our mostly objective rankings so far, in first place we have Kaiseki, and then in second place we have this episode, Sekazuke. So for this episode, I really enjoyed watching it. I did feel like there were several moments throughout it where I was like, that would have been a very compelling end to the episode. But then it continued, and then I was like, that would be a very compelling end to the episode. And then it continued, and then finally we got a very compelling end to the episode. So I felt like it was an episode that kind of really kept you on your toes because they kept coming up with very good imagery and very good moments that were impactful enough that you would think that would be a great cliffhanger if it ended here. I would be so curious what happens next, but then it would, again, continue. Obviously, you had the amazing imagery, you had the eye at the bottom of the silo made up of the human bodies, which was really, really good imagery. When Will is given a file by Hannibal and Beverly, he basically stands mid the mural in his mind and he notices that one of them is not part of the design, not like the others, and when he looks up, he sees the stag man looking down at him, which is obviously where he comes to the conclusion that definitely Hannibal was the one who had killed the killer, essentially, and that the killer is part of his own mural, as somebody else had put him in it. There's obviously, as Hannibal is sniffing the body, we as the audience are let in on what he is smelling by basically corn growing all around the body and him in a circle, making it look like he's examining the body outside instead of a lab, which again is pretty good. And then we also get when Cade comes to visit Will, he's sitting in his little cage and he basically is done talking to her and retreats into his mind, into the river where he is fly fishing. And as he is fly fishing, a bunch of bodies sort of start slipping through under the surface of the water. And they are all like kind of ghostly because it's difficult to kind of see them because they're a little bit in depth in the water, but they're flying by, so you can see them, but it is a little bit more vague, which again is very good imagery. I liked how the episode is building towards something. So, like I said, it felt like there were many moments where we were getting very compelling bits of information to lead us into the future, which I really enjoyed. It was a lot of just conversations, though. There was a lot of these two people met and talked, then these two people met and talked, then these two people met and talked, and then this person and this person met and talked, and wow, they haven't talked before, so that's so compelling and interesting. But I mean, the show realistically is a lot of people meeting and talking. So I don't count that necessarily as a negative, but it is the fact that every so often you do get some action in the episodes. This one, however, was more on the mental side of things and was very much a meet and talk, meet and talk, meet and talk kind of episode. So for basically to summarize all of that, The reason I am ranking it so high is because there were so many compelling moments that made you want to keep watching and see where we're going, that feel like they're leading you to something very exciting and compelling. The imagery was on point, very good imagery in this episode, which honestly we haven't seen for as well done for a little bit. The reason I am marking it down is because it was an excessive amount, in my opinion, of meet and talk, meet and talk, meet and talk, meet and talk with a bunch of different characters, which makes sense because, of course, Bedelia was moving away from the situation, so she had to meet each of the people she was moving away from separately. Kate and Will, they meet. Jack and his psychiatrist, they meet and talk. Beverly and Will, Hannibal and Will, Hannibal and Jack, Beverly and Jack. Like I said, a lot of meetings. So overall, enjoyed the episode immensely. Gave it an 8 out of 10. Which then brings our season 2 rankings so far to in first place Kaiseki and in second place Sakazuke. So now we come to our final segment of the video, which of course is the series ranking so far, where we are going to be ranking each of the seasons against each other. Starting off with our mostly objective ranking, we had season 1 concluding with a score of 83.85%. And now season 2 has so far gotten 16 out of 130 maximum point potential. And then on the personal ranking side, we had season 1 closing with 66.92%. And season 2 so far has earned 17 points out of 130. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked Hannibal Season 1, Episode 2, Sakazuke. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.